Hello and welcome to the second unit of the Qualified Limited short course on the fundamentals of quality management. In this unit we will introduce the 8 principles of quality management, that is to say customer focus, leadership, involvement of people, the process approach, the system approach to management, continual improvement, factual approach to decision making, and mutually beneficial supplier relationships. It is these 8 principles which collectively link together to provide the foundation for our quality management program. Our first principle is customer focus. And to set the scene for this, it is useful to examine a definition of quality from another great advocate of quality, Armand V. Feigenbaum. He says quality is a customer determination which is based on the customer's actual experience with the product or service, measured against his or her requirements, stated or unstated, conscious or merely sensed, technically operational or entirely subjective, always representing a moving target in a competitive market. Organizations depend on their customers and therefore should understand current and future customer needs. As W. Edwards Deming once said, survival is not compulsory. We must therefore strive to anticipate or identify future customer requirements and be able to exceed customer requirements rather than just meeting them. Sometimes we may have to be prepared to research customer needs and expectations. Customer complaints may actually help in this, as may information from user groups and targeted surveys. We then have to link the objectives of the organization to customer needs and expectations and use our communication system to communicate these needs and expectations throughout the organization. Everyone must pull together. It is no use setting arbitrary targets with people chasing rewards for meeting them at the expense of delivering good service to the customer on whom the business depends. Time spent chasing targets is time diverted away from meeting the needs of the customer. We must also remember that customer focus begins at the design stage, not halfway down the line. That means that R&D must be involved as much as anyone else in the TQM effort. Where possible, customer expectations need to be exceeded. And back in the 1980s, Jan Carlsen, the then Chief Executive Officer of SAS, that is Scandinavian Airlines System, promoted the concept of the moment of truth. We should all bear this in mind. The moment of truth refers to a short time period where an opportunity exists to delight the customer, especially if they have been let down or something has not gone according to plan. It need not be a costly action, yet these moments of truth collectively can greatly enhance a company's reputation over time. Management has the power to empower people to make the most of this. More recently, customer focus has been enhanced with the publication of the Customer Service Excellence Standard. This is taught on our CQI Level 3 certificate and Level 5 diploma courses on quality management. We must never lose track of customer focus. We must always use measuring and monitoring to ensure that it is there and part of the improvement process. And it must go further than merely recording the number of customer complaints and attempting to reduce them. Critical success factors and key performance indicators are required. The second of our 8 principles is leadership. This forms a major component in any TQM program and is explored in more depth in the CQI's People in Quality module. The way in which people perform in their environment is governed by a combination of the type of leadership and personal motivation. The environment plays a major part in how people respond. The appropriateness of the leader's style, for example, will have a major impact on behaviour. Likewise, task clarity, urgency, and subordinate empathy will affect performance and motivation. Leader qualifications and knowledge is also important for gaining and maintaining group confidence and loyalty. Also, there is probably no substitute for being in the right place at the right time. All of these factors need to be borne in mind when it comes to acting in a leading role. In our CQI quality management courses, we deal with several theories of leadership in some detail. Here we will look at just one, Vroom and Jago's, which is one of the simplest. This distinguishes 3 different types of leader behaviour: autocratic, consultative, and group leadership. Studies in quality management will reveal where each type is most appropriate. We would not, for example, engage in consultative or group leadership if the task was to evacuate people from a burning building. But when it comes to reaching decisions in a business environment, the priority is likely to be very different. We can look at leader qualities and study them. Clearly, leaders have to have drive and determination, an element of assertiveness, the ability to achieve the correct level and direction of motivation, honesty and integrity that will be respected, and a certain amount of charisma that will lend itself to achieving a transformation. A key function of leadership is to establish unity of purpose and direction to the organisation, and to maintain the internal environment so that everybody is involved in achieving the organisation's objectives. Remember, put everybody to work to achieve the transformation. It is no use involving some areas but not others, or leaving a margin of doubt about where the organisation is actually heading. Once an organisation's goals and objectives are understood, people will be motivated to achieve them as long as other factors, such as management by objectives, are not allowed to get in the way. Honesty and integrity will minimise miscommunication, establish trust, and eliminate fear. The good leader naturally has a duty to provide the necessary level of resources, training, and freedom to enable people to do a good job. Responsibility and accountability then need to be matched with the appropriate level of authority. The good leader also has a duty to inspire, encourage, and recognise the contributions of the people. This does not mean endless praise, financial rewards, or brownie points, more a case of taking notice when something positive is worked for and achieved. Closely associated with leadership is the much broader social science of group dynamics. A little of this is relevant to quality management, particularly when it comes to understanding the interdependencies between groups and individuals. 4 different types of interdependency can be identified: unilateral, mutual and reciprocal, sequential, and multi-level. The good leader should be able to recognise them all. We note, for example, with TQM, the internal customer and the internal supplier as an example of sequential interdependence. Organisations, of course, also have a role collectively in the wider community, often bordering with other communities. It is therefore in the interests of wider communities to have all organisations performing well, rather than suboptimising the whole through excessive competition, which is yet another aspect of Deming's teaching. Even competitors need to be able to trust one another and at times work together to raise standards and prevent disharmony. Strongly linked to leadership is the involvement of people. People need to be motivated and committed to achieving results. This subject is covered in more detail in the Qualified Limited lecture Leadership and Motivation. In this, we explain how to enable people to become eager to participate in and contribute to continual improvement, sharing knowledge and experience. We also look at communication and why it is necessary to make hostile, closed communication climates the subject of a change initiative to enable a culture change to be brought about. The next of our 8 principles is what we call a process approach. This often requires us to be able to map our processes so as to be able to obtain an in-depth understanding of them before seeking to apply quality methods and tools. Flowcharting is a useful technique, allowing us to gain a diagrammatic representation of the various steps and stages that are involved. This will help us when it comes to examining and improving our processes. The charts that we use may record what people actually do, or they may record how material, including paperwork, is handled or treated. Sometimes they may show how certain pieces of equipment are used, or they may show how information flows where and to whom. Flowcharting is a technique, and in addition to ensuring that staff are trained in its use, we also have to ensure that when it is applied, all of those who are affected by the process under consideration are actively involved. It's no good assembling a team, modifying a process, and then simply imposing the change on those who are expected to use the process. This will merely alienate all those who might otherwise be positive, especially if they can see how the improvement will benefit them. All members of the team need to have a common understanding of the process, with key inputs, value-adding steps, and outputs clearly defined. A major benefit of flowcharting is that it allows existing processes, which may have simply evolved rather than being specifically designed, to be challenged so that gaps, duplication, and dead ends can be identified. Flowcharting can also help us to highlight cases where processes have been poorly defined or documented. We can also use the technique to establish the causes of breaks or problems in the supply chain, and where people are only aware of their own aspect of a process, it can help them to gain an understanding of the complete process. The development of internal customer-supplier relationships can also be facilitated. When we prepare to use a flowchart, there are some fundamental questions that we need to ask. First of all, what is actually done? Then, what is actually achieved? Why is the activity necessary at all? What else could or should be done? Similar questions can be asked about where a process is being conducted, like why it is being done there and where else could it or should it be done. Then there is the question of time. Why is the process done when it is, and could it or should it be done at some other time? And what about the people? Who does it? Why does that person do it rather than someone else? The method may also be relevant. Is there some other way in which the same process could be performed? These questions each help to answer the overarching question of purpose, so that we can look to eliminate, combine, rearrange or simplify the activities involved. A desired result is achieved more efficiently when activities and related resources are managed as a process. This means systematically defining the activities that are necessary to obtain a desired result, establishing clear responsibility and accountability for managing key activities, and analysing and measuring the capability of key activities. We need to identify the interfaces of key activities within and between the functions of the organisation, and to focus on the factors, resources, methods and materials that will improve key activities. Then we need the skills of risk assessment, which have been increasingly recognised for their importance in management system standards, so that the consequences and impacts of activities on customers, suppliers and interested parties can be evaluated. Earlier, we mentioned appreciation for a system as part of Deming's system of profound knowledge. Here is what he teaches us: that a system is a network of interdependent components that work together to accomplish an aim. That a system must have an aim, and that the aim must be clear for everyone and include plans for the future. In addition, a system must be managed and have defined boundaries in the context of the wider system. Management of a system, he said, needs knowledge of the interrelationships between all the components within a system and all the people who work in it. Importantly, left to themselves, components become selfish, competitive, independent profit centres. He taught us that the aim should be that everybody gains. Short-term thinking that leads only to an aim of survival for the day without consideration of the future is a deadly disease. We therefore have to choose an aim following a clarification of values. Then the system must create value. It must be optimised and controlled, and it is management's job to work on improvement of the system whilst workers are working in it, taking care to listen out for any comments or suggestions that could potentially lead to improvement. This is not rocket science, it is merely basic management. Appreciation for a system necessitates that we consider optimization of a system. This, says Deming, is a process of orchestrating the efforts of all components to achieve the stated aim. Optimization is management's job. Anything less than optimization will bring loss to every component of the system in the end. Engineers will be familiar with the idea of a control system. Defined inputs and outputs, the need to compare outputs with the aim, and the need for feedback to ensure that inputs are adjusted to produce the required outputs. Later, we will be mentioning enablers and results in connection with management systems. Here are some of the basics. Results are outputs from a management system. Enablers are those elements that help to achieve those results. And measurement is used to resolve gaps between actual and intended results. Interfaces join system components together. These interfaces can become weak links if the system is not managed. Additional measurements may therefore be needed at certain critical interfaces. Identifying, understanding and managing interrelated processes as a system contributes to the organization's effectiveness and efficiency in achieving its objectives. Integration and alignment of the processes is needed to achieve the desired results. We must focus on the key processes and be able to demonstrate the attributes of consistency, effectiveness and efficiency when managing our system. We must seek to understand the interdependencies between the processes of the system, to learn to create structured approaches that will harmonize and integrate processes, and clarify roles and responsibilities for achieving common objectives, thereby reducing cross-functional barriers that will impede progress. Another key requirement is to be able to understand organizational capabilities and establish any resource constraints prior to action. Also, to make it clear how specific activities within a system should operate and to use measurement and evaluation to continually improve the system. The sixth principle of quality management is continual improvement. And here we have two types to consider. First of all, we have incremental improvement, or Kaizen, which involves the continual refinement of existing processes in a manner that is almost imperceptible. This is contrasted with breakthrough improvement, which is driven by innovation so as to raise performance to a new standard and then controlled at a higher level. As part of our systems approach, we need to ensure that objectives for improvement are built in. This is in addition to meeting the ongoing requirements of customers. For this, we need a strategy that incorporates the management of change, as well as ensuring that existing priorities continue to be met. The commitment to continual improvement is normally reflected in a policy statement with quality objectives that are then communicated so as to be understood by everyone and able to be implemented. Customer feedback and corrective action reports identify opportunities for improvement, along with staff suggestions which need to be encouraged and recognised. But we do not wait for improvement to be customer driven. Some of it will be, but not all. In some cases, as Deming said, innovation has to come from the supplier. Another important point to consider is the fact that when problems are identified in one area, consideration needs to be given as to whether they could occur elsewhere. If so, then preventive action needs to be taken. We identify, plan, record, and verify quality improvements. And for this, we need a system of document control, or management of information, as it is now referred to in the latest management system standards. We will now take a closer look at incremental and breakthrough improvement. Incremental improvement involves ever-increasing numbers of small incremental improvement steps. With this, it is the momentum rather than the rate of improvement that is important. Breakthrough improvement, however, is made on a project-by-project basis and uses Pareto analysis to identify the vital few contributors to the cost of poor quality. These then help with the project identification. With breakthrough improvement, the study of symptoms helps us towards a diagnosis, rather like a doctor in a surgery. Once the diagnosis is confirmed, it is possible to theorize as to the cause of these symptoms. The collection and analysis of data will help us to test the theories that we have devised. The aim is to reach a point where we can switch off the defects at will, showing us clearly that we have found our solution. Pareto analysis may again be used to find the vital few defects, vital few symptoms, or vital few causes for one symptom. Breakthrough improvement can be applied at the design stage as well as in production to resolve chronic quality problems. Continual improvement of the organisation's overall performance has to be a permanent objective of the organisation and an objective for everyone in the organisation. Our seventh principle of quality management is what we call a factual approach to decision making. A key point here is that decisions have to be effective, suitable, and sustainable. This requires accurate and reliable data and information. Sometimes we use the term dispassionate data to refer to data for various options that is gathered and either tested or simulated so as to guarantee accuracy prior to making the final decision. We cannot rely on whims, guesses, opinions and hunches for effective decision making. Nor can we simply accept the first solution that happens to come to mind. We must be able to make decisions on the basis of a logical analysis of data and information. The existence of unknown facts can have, in some cases, very serious consequences if they are overlooked. A factual approach to decision making will lead to informed decisions. An increased ability to demonstrate the effectiveness of past decisions through reference to factual records. It will also provide an increased ability to review, challenge and change opinions and decisions. But it necessitates that data and information are sufficiently accurate and reliable, and that data has to be accessible to those who need to use it. Valid methods have to be used to analyse data and information, and a balance achieved between factual analysis, experience and intuition. Our last principle is that of mutually beneficial supplier relationships. Again, right at the heart of the Deming philosophy. The fact is, organisations and their suppliers are interdependent, and a mutually beneficial relationship enhances the ability of both to create value. With mutually beneficial supplier relationships, organisations work with their suppliers to improve quality. Quality and price are considered together. Remember, Deming told us to end purchasing purely on the basis of a price tag. Decisions need to be made on the basis of win-win and not win-lose. Otherwise, ultimately, both parties will lose. With this key element of Deming's teaching understood, both parties can concentrate on creating value, with flexibility and speed of joint responses to changing market and customer needs and expectations. There will be optimization of costs and resources. Short-term gains will be balanced with long-term considerations, and there will be a pooling of expertise and resources with key partners. Key suppliers will be identified, selected and retained, and there will be clear and open communication throughout. There will be a sharing of information and key plans, joint development and improvement activities, and inspiring, encouraging and recognition of improvements, and achievements of suppliers, just as with one's own people. So this is R8. In the next section, we will return to our quality advocates and consider the remaining 2 outstanding individuals that help to shape modern quality management. If you would like more information, please contact us on 0161 236 2421 or email us at info@qualified.ltd.uk. Also, please remember to follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter and YouTube, where you will find more useful information free of charge.